Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into the newest chapter of the turbulent story between Ly Hoai Ca and Hùng. If you watched the previous episode, you're probably still shaken by the moment Hung's mother collapsed from her worsening illness, standing right on the fragile line between life and death. She was once stubborn, once caused Hoai Ca so much pain. But after realizing her time might be running out, she truly regretted everything. She put aside all her pride, trying to return, hoping to make things right, hoping to see her son and daughter-in-law one more time. The question is, can Hoai Ca, the one who suffered the most, open her heart to forgive? Can Hùng, torn between love and the wounds his mother caused, stay calm enough to accept the truth? And most importantly, will his mother's illness force the entire family into a completely new turning point? All the answers are waiting in today's video. Stay tuned to see what happens next, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. The morning was chilly. A cold breeze swept through the row of trees in front of the therapy center, spinning fallen leaves before they touched the dew-damp tiles. The sky was so gray it blurred the line between clouds and empty space, just like the tangled emotions of the woman standing silently at the far corner of the parking lot. Hung's mother wore an old conical hat with frayed edges, her hands clutching a faded cloth bag. Every step she took brought her closer, yet her heart kept retreating, terrified someone might notice her. She stood behind the large glass window of the therapy center, half hidden behind the wall, her trembling gaze fixed on the scene inside. Through the fogged-up glass, Hoai Ca was bending forward, adjusting the support strap on Tony's leg. Her movements were slow, careful, patient, the kind of patience only someone who truly loves can hold on to for so long. Her voice floated out, soft but piercing, straight through the glass, straight into the woman's chest. "Good job, my boy. Just a little more, okay?" Tony bit his lip, his face flushed from exhaustion, but he still lifted his leg in rhythm. A child far too understanding for his age. And Hoai Ca, so gentle, so meticulous, made the woman's heart twist painfully. In that moment, an old memory hit her like a sudden gust. Hùng, 5 or 6 years old, collapsing onto the brickyard every time he practiced walking on his weak legs. She would yell, angry from fear, yet always stood at a distance, afraid coming close would make him dependent. Every time, Hùng would grit his teeth and get up again. And today, Tony was gritting his teeth the exact same way. She swallowed hard. Her whole body tightened when she saw Hoai Ca gently brush Tony's cheek, wiping away the sweat. "Mom believes you can do it." That word "mom" stabbed right through her chest. She once thought Hoai Ca was unworthy of her son. She once hated her, pushed her away, treated her so cruelly she almost drove that gentle girl to the edge of life and death. She once believed having a child from a previous relationship was a stain. But now she realized the greatest mistake of her life was failing to see Hoai Ca's kindness sooner. A tear fell, hot, burning. She quickly turned away, wiping it with the sleeve of her worn shirt. "That girl, she's much better than I ever imagined." Her voice trembled, as if she were speaking only to herself. But even with regret flooding her chest, her feet refused to step a single meter closer. She didn't dare let Hoai Ca see her. Didn't dare let Tony sense someone was watching. And definitely didn't dare let Hùng find out she had returned, especially in this condition. She stood there, frozen, clutching the cloth bag as if it were holding all her fears. Then she turned around and slowly walked away from the center. Each step felt like a cut slicing deeper into her heart. She wanted to go closer, but she wasn't ready. Not yet. Not today. Noon was stifling, the kind of heat that didn't come from sunlight, the kind that tired you from the inside out. Hung's mother carried her old cloth bag and slowly made her way to the small house where Tieu San now lived with CEO Hoai, the house Hoai himself had built and given to her and the child, like a gift to make up for all the hardships she once endured. She stood at the gate for a long time, hands trembling as she knocked. Click. The door opened, revealing Tieu San's face. The moment she saw the older woman, she froze, not angry, not shouting, but her eyes tightened as if something inside her had been squeezed painfully. "Why, are you here again?" Tieu San's voice was steady, but her chest rose and fell sharply. Hung's mother bowed her head low, so low she looked like she might collapse at any moment. "Let me stay here, just for a few days. I'm very weak. I have nowhere else to go." Her voice was thin, barely more than a breath, like someone who had only a little strength left. But Tieu San, the girl who had been hurt the most, shook her head immediately. "I'm sorry. I can't. Not yet." Her voice cracked, but not a single tear fell. Because she had already used up all her tears in the years she was forced to live with a man she never loved. The years this very woman had pushed her into. The silence that followed stretched long enough to feel like an entire lifetime. Finally, the older woman nodded. No blame, no bitterness. Because she knew some wounds she created herself, and no amount of apology could heal them right away. That afternoon, she rented a cheap room nearby. The room was so small it barely fit an old iron bed, a wobbly wooden table, and a rattling electric fan. At night, the wind slipped through the cracks in the door, chilling her fingers numb. But every night, she still sat on the tiny balcony, looking down at the warm lights of Tieu San's home. From afar, she watched Tieu San opening the door for CEO Hoai. They said something, then laughed. Hoai carried groceries, San tied on her apron. They walked into the kitchen together, one washing vegetables, the other seasoning the soup. Sometimes Hoai brushed her hair back, and she playfully tapped his shoulder in return. A small family. Peaceful. Warm. Exactly the kind of life the young woman had wished for her whole life. The older woman clenched the corner of her shirt, her eyes burning. Thank God she has someone who truly loves her now. Back then, I hurt that child far too much. A sudden gust blew her hair into chaos. She bowed her head, voice cracking. If I hadn't forced her to marry someone she didn't love, her life would have been so different. A single elderly tear rolled down slow, heavy, aching. And for the first time in years, she felt she no longer had the right to call Tieu San her daughter. She traveled more than half a day, bouncing on a crowded bus all the way to the remote unit where Hung worked. The borderland sun burned her skin, dust filled the air, her legs felt like they might give out. But she kept walking, just to see her son once, even from afar. When she reached the gate, she didn't dare step inside. She hid behind a large tree, shrinking into herself like someone running from her own past. She struck up a conversation with the man selling drinks nearby. "Excuse me, is it hard for Hung to work here?" The vendor looked up, smiling warmly. "Hung? That boy? Gentle but tough, ma'am. He's a police officer but cares about the people like family. Everyone here loves him. Something happens, he's the first one there." She bit her lip as tears welled in her eyes. A moment later, the lady from the rice shop brought out a tray. Hearing bits of the conversation, she chimed in. "Just the other night, some kids crashed their bike. Blood everywhere. He was in the middle of dinner, dropped his chopsticks and sprinted out, drove them straight to the hospital. I watched and thought, whoever raised a son like that must have great blessings." The words, "whoever raised that son," stabbed straight into her chest. She stood there, hands trembling, clutching her shirt. A bitter truth formed in her heart. The same child the whole neighborhood used to call stubborn, hot-headed, hard to teach. The same child she had yelled at, hit, and pushed away from her arms, had now become a man respected by everyone around him. A flicker of pride slipped into her heart, tangled with a scorching, painful sorrow. Suddenly, the sound of police boots echoed from the station. Hung stepped out. His uniform fit him perfectly, his name tag glinting under the sun. His stride firm, his posture straight. His face serious, but his eyes still carried that softness, that goodness she had loved so much when he was little. Her breath caught. "My son, you've really grown." She lifted her foot, ready to run to him. Ready to call out "Hung oi," like when he used to toddle across the yard. Ready to hug him, even just once. Ready to say the apology she had swallowed for years. But her legs gave out. She was afraid. Afraid he would turn away. Afraid to see disappointment in his eyes. Afraid the past would slam shut in her face all over again. So, she quietly turned around and walked the opposite direction, away from the path Hung was coming down. Her shoulders trembled. Her figure wavered under the harsh sunlight. From afar, Hung glanced toward the gate, frowning slightly, as if sensing someone familiar. But she was already gone, swallowed by the line of trees. Only the wind remained, and the lonely silhouette of a mother trying to atone for her mistakes with the last fragile pieces of her heart. She finally went back for her follow-up, the appointment she had been delaying for weeks, because she knew. The clearer the diagnosis, the heavier her heart would become. Inside the cold, sterile room, the hum of the air conditioner sounded like the ticking of her own remaining time. The doctor placed the scan onto the light board, the white glow outlining the deep worry etched into his face. He stared at it for a long moment, then exhaled heavily. At this stage, all we can do is help manage the pain. Any treatment won't extend things by much. One sentence, slicing through the air like a blade. She sat frozen for a few seconds, then reached out to take the paper. A thin sheet that felt as heavy as her entire life. Her hands trembled so hard the edge of the page shook with her heartbeat. But what truly tightened her chest wasn't the fear of dying. It was the fear of not making it in time. Not making it in time to gather enough money to buy back the house. The home she had foolishly lost. Not making it in time to bow her head and properly apologize to Hoai Ca. The apology that had been stuck in her throat for years. Not making it in time to see Hung, the son she once pushed away. To see him openly, not from behind a tree. Just once. She bit her lip as a tear fell onto the medical report, blurring the printed lines. "I can't leave yet. I still owe my children far too much." She held the file to her chest, curling forward as if trying to hide her pain. People moved up and down the hospital corridor in a blur, while she stood completely still, like an old shadow waiting to fade. But in her exhausted eyes, a final, desperate strength flickered. As long as she was still breathing, she would keep trying. Trying to make peace with her children. Trying to fix what she broke. Trying to hold Hung just one last time. She returned to her hometown on a windless afternoon, the gray sky laying a layer of sadness over the entire village road. One hand held her medical files, the other clutched the edge of her shirt, as if holding onto the last fragile thread of hope slipping through her fingers. She began knocking on doors. At the first house, she stood at the gate for a long time before she could speak. "Please, could you lend me some money? I want to buy back the house. I owe the kids too much." The woman looked at her with pity. "That's a huge amount. I can't help you." The second house, the third house, same thing. Some felt sorry for her. Land prices have skyrocketed. Where will you find that kind of money? Some avoided her eyes, afraid to say no directly. Still, she bowed and thanked each person, even as her heart twisted painfully inside her chest. When she couldn't borrow, she decided to earn it herself. She took any job people were willing to give. Washing dishes at food stalls, her wrinkled hands turning raw and red. Carrying crates at the market, her back stabbing with pain every time she bent. Collecting scrap metal, hunched under the blistering sun. Doing laundry for hire, icy water numbing her fingers to the bone. At night, she curled up on her narrow rented bed, every breath broken and shaky. But whenever she thought of Hoai Ca, of Hung, of little Tony, she whispered to herself, "It's okay. As long as I can breathe, I can still work." Then one day, she worked straight from morning till evening, hungry, exhausted, her body trembling. On the bus ride home, she leaned back against the old seat, her vision fading at the edges. Before the voices around her even became clear, her body slumped sideways. She had fainted. The driver panicked, shaking her. "Ma'am? Ma'am?" People helped carry her to a bench at the bus stop, gave her water, rubbed her back. After a while, she opened her eyes again, breathing weakly, sweat pouring down like rain. Someone advised softly, "You're sick, you should rest. Why push yourself like this?" But she only shook her head, forcing a faint, trembling smile. "No, I can't stop yet. I still have things to do. As long as I'm breathing, this mother has to keep going." Hung's mother continued living quietly in her tiny rented room, working labor jobs by day, and spending every night on the small balcony, watching the lives of her children unfold beneath her like scenes from a world she no longer belonged to. She watched Hoai Ca from afar, the girl she once treated the worst, now the one caring for Tony with every ounce of love she had. She watched Tieu San, the child she once forced into a loveless marriage, now finally blessed with real happiness beside CEO Hai. And she watched Hung, the son she used to call difficult, now a man admired by strangers and respected by the entire region. But she only watched. She didn't dare step closer. She didn't dare stir up old wounds. She didn't dare take away the peace her children had fought their whole youth to earn. Every night, she rested her chin on her hands, staring at the warm lights glowing from their homes, her heart filled with both warmth and pain. She stayed there until late, until the night breeze chilled her thin skin, yet she refused to go inside, as if staring at those lights a little longer would give her enough strength to survive one more day. Deep down, she had only one wish left: to leave something behind for her children, before it was too late. A redeemed home they could return to. A single spoken apology even once. One final hug for the son she had never held properly all those years. But time wasn't on her side. Her health was draining. Her work was getting heavier. The money she saved still wasn't enough. And the same question echoed in her mind every night. Will I make it in time? Will she save enough to reclaim the house before her legs give out? Will she gather the courage to face Hoai Ca, the person she owed the biggest apology of her life? And will Hung ever learn the truth before his mother collapses for the last time? Everything hung in the air, fragile, trembling, waiting for one moment to shatter. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode to see how this heartbreaking chapter unfolds. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments to support the story.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Bây giờ mình vẫn chưa là vừa xong video hết rồi đó mọi người. Mình đang cố gắng để hoàn thành video. Mình đang edit thêm một số hiệu ứng nữa cho video và hiệu ứng xong thì mình sẽ xuất phụ đề và thêm nhạc nền vào, rồi mình sẽ ghép 1 phút đuôi vô rồi là sẽ xuất ra. Hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ ủng hộ và theo dõi cho kênh của mình nhiều hơn nhé mọi người. Cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Tạm biệt. Chúc mọi người một buổi tối vui vẻ.